Get cozy, folks, and let me spin you a heartwarming yarn about an old soldier, his loving family, and some hard learned lessons on appreciating the heroism found in our elders. Enjoy watching. Robert, now an elderly man, was a veteran of the war in Afghanistan. He was driving his old Ford Pinto down the highway to visit friends, reminiscing about the old days. In his retirement years, he often indulged in memories like this, immersing himself in recollections. Robert had seen a lot of good and bad in his life, but he was glad that the warm moments outweighed the tough ones. The man couldn't remember his parents and was raised in an orphanage until he came of age. The conditions there were good. Things were tightly regulated with regular inspections, just as they should be. The kids could explore different extracurricular activities. Robert was really into sports. It all came naturally to him, especially playing soccer with the other boys. He was in great shape with excellent endurance. His talent didn't go unnoticed. He was sent to competitions and would return with awards. The champion was celebrated back at the orphanage with festive tea parties in his honor. After aging out of the orphanage, Robert went straight into the military. He saw it as a man's duty to his country. Robert was assigned to the 82nd Airborne Division, one of the first units deployed to Afghanistan during the war. The young recruits weren't prepared for that, but they weren't cowards either. Robert fought bravely and fearlessly, not cowering behind his comrades' backs. Instead, he made some trusted friends he could rely on, friends he'd willingly give his life for. A month before his discharge, all the paratroopers were excited about returning home. But their unit unexpectedly walked into an ambush while escorting a military convoy through a mountain pass. They had to think and act quickly. Some disobeyed the commander's direct orders, resulting in many of Robert's comrades being killed right before his eyes by the enemy. Recalling those events still brought tears. His chest burned just like it did back then. The survivors, including Robert, suffered severe injuries. Robert lost both his legs to shrapnel, and despite the doctor's efforts, the damage was irreparable. They had to amputate above the knees. Robert endured his hospital stay and grueling rehabilitation, but he couldn't come to terms with losing both limbs. How could a young guy, still just a green recruit, be crippled for life like that? Robert couldn't fathom how to live from then on. He didn't even have any living relatives. Dark thoughts started creeping in, and soon even the most disturbing ones didn't faze him anymore. He even considered taking his own life, though in his condition it wouldn't be so easy. The young nurse Maria, who was caring for Robert, could see the suicidal look in his eyes when he gazed out the window. She was usually all smiles and gentle, but one day she bluntly told him, "Don't even think about it. You'll have your chance to die. You haven't even lived yet. I'll have you moved to the first floor and I'll sit by your bedside around the clock to make sure you don't do anything stupid." Robert was choked up. He really had no one to talk to about this, no one who would understand. The men only screamed during treatment or surgery, otherwise they had to stay stoic. But Maria had been working at the hospital long enough to see plenty of horrors. The wounded men acted like children around her sometimes, needing to be coddled like babies. Other times they needed tough love. Maria started nursing Robert back to health, never again raising her voice at him but patiently restoring his will to live. Robert was smitten with her beauty and fiery spirit. How could you not fall for a girl like that? Robert got lucky that in the future Maria became his wife. He could hardly believe a gorgeous woman like her could love him and take on such a burden, spending her whole life married to a disabled vet, something she could never take back. Even if she wanted to leave him, she'd just torture herself. Robert loved and respected his gentle wife fiercely, even feared her a little. By her side, he felt like a whole man again, capable of moving mountains for his family's well-being. Unlike so many in his shoes, he didn't turn to drink or despair. The couple was able to afford prosthetics, with Maria helping Robert adjust to them, always encouraging and celebrating even the smallest successes. Once back on his feet, Robert went to college and got a degree, later finding work as an agronomist in Maria's hometown, becoming a respected expert in his field. Many people sought his advice and enjoyed just stopping by to say hello. Maria baked delicious pies, with neighbors flocking over for tea parties whenever they caught a whiff of her fresh-baked goodies. Robert and Maria had one son together, Billy, a healthy baby boy, just as stubborn as his mom and full of energy like his dad. They kept a beehive along with the usual farmyard animals, cows, geese, chickens. By village standards, they were considered well off. "What a handsome boy you've got there," the neighbor ladies would tell Maria, already scoping out potential husbands for their own daughters. He's the spitting image of his dad, running and tumbling about, and acres not enough for that boundless energy of his. He wants to be a paratrooper like his old man, and he's working hard at it so everyone can see his ambition from a mile away. I sure hope he makes it. Still a ways to go before the military, but he's getting himself into shape, Maria would respond, knowing her son had also taken up skydiving. Sure enough, after the draft, Billy was assigned to the 82nd Airborne like his father. He served honorably, never backing down, earning the respect of his captain and fellow troopers. He came home proud in his Army uniform, by the books, but his parents' joy at reuniting with their son was dampened by his announcement. "You'll have to excuse me," Billy said plainly after their first family dinner, not beating around the bush. "But it's time for me to get my own life started. I'm not a kid anymore. I'm not staying in this village. I got a taste of it, but now I want to live in the city." "What do you need the city for, son? I thought you always loved the outdoors," Robert asked. "Is there a girl waiting for you there?" "No dad, no girl yet, but it's time for me to start building something for myself. I'll stick around here for a little bit, then head out to find my own place. Don't worry about me. It's only 40 minutes to the city, so we'll see each other plenty." "Well, if that's your decision, we accept it," Maria said, patting her son's head. "You're right, you're all grown up now and can make your own choices. You can't live with your parents forever. You need your own place, too." After moving to the city, Billy joined the police force, getting assigned to a SWAT team full of strapping guys just like him. 2 years have passed since then. In that time, Robert lost his beloved wife and now keeps their farmstead going solo, indulging his hobby of beekeeping. His rich, flavorful honey is renowned throughout the area. It's a nice diversion for him. As a former combat vet, Robert was issued a hand-controlled Ford Pinto, which he cherishes, carefully maintaining it in showroom condition and affectionately nicknaming it his little birdie. Robert pulled the Pinto out of the garage and went to lock up before heading into town to visit an old friend, bringing some of his honey as a gift. He was lonely being alone so much and wanted to socialize, maybe reminisce about old times. Robert merged onto the highway, driving cautiously and at a leisurely pace. He wasn't in any hurry to meet his maker before he could get his son married off. But some thugs running an auto insurance scam had already spotted Robert's distinctive little car from far off. Big, stocky, and relentless, they usually targeted elderly motorists who would get flustered and quickly hand over cash in exchange for not pursuing the accident any further. Law-abiding folks who believed they were at fault and just wanted to make things right fast. With those thoughts in mind, the crooks were staking out the highway, on the lookout for their next mark. Robert seemed like perfect prey as he came into view in his old Pinto. The scammers cut him off in their flashy BMW, then jumped out yelling and screaming as soon as they pulled over. "Hey, Gramps, watch where you're going. Look what you did to my ride. Do you know how much this costs? How much you think the repairs are going to run me?" One of them got up in Robert's face, but the old man was still stunned by the sudden confrontation, not understanding where these guys materialized from or why they were blaming him. "Young fellas, you're the ones who jumped right out in front of me. How could I have hit you and my little birdie like that? You need to pay closer attention," Robert calmly replied to the three punks. "Me pay attention? I'ma teach you about paying attention, old-timer." They yanked open the Pinto's door. "Get out here and hand over your wallet. How much cash you got? Come on, hand it over. We're not going to go easy on you just because you're an old geezer." As Robert stepped out, the crooks immediately noticed his prosthetic legs and burst out laughing derisively. As much as he was grateful not to be wheelchair-bound, that kind of mocking behavior still stung. "Well, look at this. We got ourselves a regular peg-leg Pete. Didn't think we'd ever see a walking sideshow freak like you, Gramps," the scumbags cackled. "Fork over the dough already before we unscrew those toothpick legs of yours." Robert was angry, but realistic. He wasn't the same man who fought in Afghanistan anymore. He couldn't physically overpower these three alone. Still, he tried to stand his ground, to get back in his car and drive off. The young punks quickly subdued and further degraded him, shoving the elderly vet down onto his back. Unable to be as mobile on his prosthetics, Robert decided to try a different tactic. "Listen, guys, go easy on me, will ya? I don't have much cash on me, just pocket change. But I could call my son. He's a student studying to be a teacher. Scrawny, bookish kid. Doesn't know the first thing about fighting. You leave him be and he can bring you some money. Then we'll all be on our way. No harm done. All right, make the call then, and make it snappy. We're already running late because of your wrinkled hide. The crooks rubbed their hands in anticipation of shaking down some pencil-necked dweeb, even though they promised not to rough him up. A few light slaps upside the head would be obligatory, of course. They watched as Robert pulled himself up and called his son. "Son, I need your help. I'm in a bit of a pickle, and this is embarrassing to ask." Robert trailed off, swallowing his pride before naming an amount that would satisfy the scammer's greed while also tipping Billy off to the danger. "I kind of bumped another car, and these fellows and I agreed to handle it privately. No need to call the cops and make a bigger scene, you understand? Could you bring that amount of cash? I'm waiting right here for you." "Dad, are you okay? Did they hurt you at all?" Billy sounded frantic but tried to keep it together. "Hang tight, I'm on my way. And so help me if they've laid a hand on you." "I'll be here, take it easy and watch your speed," Robert replied, stalling for time. Within 20 minutes, Billy and 4 of his heavily muscled SWAT teammates pulled up in a truck. As soon as they got out, the scammers panicked, realizing their intended victim wasn't some helpless old codger after all. They started backing away towards their BMW, looking to make a hasty retreat. "Hold it right there, you lowlifes! You try to pull that garbage with my old man?" Billy roared as he closed the distance. "That was a big mistake, fellas." "Whoa, whoa, hey man, we didn't do nothing to him, I swear. Just a little fender bender, that's all. We ain't want no trouble from some old vet." "You got that right." Billy gave a subtle nod to his boys before they swarmed the punks, working them over, but good. They didn't hold back, giving the scumbags an epic beating until Robert finally called for them to let up. "All right, that's enough. Break it up, all of you," he shouted, and the officers finally stood down. "No need for any more low-rent brutality. Just toss them in the truck. They can work off their debt doing some honest labor instead." The scammers were initially relieved, having no idea what they were in for, a full acre of untilled soil waiting to be dug up and turned over. "Thanks, son," Robert hugged Billy once his friends had hauled the crooks off to his farmstead. "I don't have the strength for this kind of nonsense anymore, to deal with human refuse like that." "Don't worry about it, Pops. You just say the word and I'll handle things. So, where were you headed anyway?" "Over to Vlad's place to chew the fat with an old buddy, but you know what? Let's swing by and pay your mom a visit first." The 2 men climbed into the Pinto and paid their respects at Maria's grave before Robert continued on to see his friend in town. The lifelong pals stayed up late, reminiscing about all the big and little things over a few rounds. They thanked whatever higher power for blessing them with sons who still looked out for their old-timer fathers in their twilight years. If you enjoyed this story, please give it a thumbs up and click the notification bell when subscribing to be alerted about new, engaging stories when they're posted. Take care, everyone!